The first weekend in September may be football season for most, but it's recruiting season for Gonzaga.
You are Locked On Zags, your daily podcast on the Gonzaga Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, y'all? Welcome into the Locked On Zags podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host and longtime Gonzaga podcaster, Andy Patton, here to bring you news and updates on all things Zag athletics. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Folks, download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase. First, folks, apologies for those of you on YouTube. My camera went out just before recording, so we are on the regular laptop camera for today. But we got a fun, jam-packed episode to get to today. We got Mario Saint-Supery coming home to Spokane after Spain was surprisingly eliminated in the group phase at EuroBasket. We'll talk about what that means for Mario. We also discuss Gonzaga's coaching staff, very, very busy last weekend out on the recruiting trail, a trio of 2027 recruits that the Zags were pursuing, as well as a 2026 prospect that is listed Gonzaga in his top four. We'll get to all of that. We'll start there. Ethan Harris, a name that many of you who are regular listeners to the show, first of all, shout out to all of those everydayers. I appreciate you, especially here in September. Still 2 months till the start of the college basketball season. But we've talked about Ethan Harris a handful of times. He's a 6'9" power forward from Camas, Washington. And he has, in fact, listed Gonzaga in his top 4 finalists. This came out late last week. And it's not a surprise. In fact, a lot of the reporting that has already been out there, much of it done by Max Mendel over at Inside the Kennel on 247 Sports, has kind of indicated that this is probably a 3-team race at this point for Ethan Harris between Gonzaga, Washington, and Iowa. And in fact, all 3 of those programs were listed in Harris's top 4 alongside Boise State. So definitely not a shock to see those schools be the finalists. Harris has taken official visits already to both Boise State and Iowa. I believe the Boise State visit was in June and the Iowa visit was in July. And then he just wrapped up an official visit at Washington this past weekend. I think that started officially on September 5th. And then now he's going to visit Gonzaga, and he's coming to Spokane to visit September 9th. So as many of you are listening to this tomorrow for most of you. So he's going to be on campus very, very soon. And you always want to be the last visit. That's always a good spot to be. And the fact that, again, as I'm recording this in the afternoon on Sunday, September 7th, Harris has not made a commitment. It is possible that in the next day or so, he was so blown away by his visit to Washington and feels so confident that's where he wants to go that he makes a commitment and cancels his visit. But I think that's pretty unlikely. I think at that point, if you're a day away from going to Spokane, you might as well just go on that visit and make your decision after that. And Gonzaga certainly would love to have him on campus to have that last reminder of Spokane kind of being that last memory he has of his recruiting visits. Harris, for those who do not know, he's a 6'9" forward from, again, Camas, Washington. He's 123rd in the updated 2026 class rankings. It's been a meteoric rise. And obviously still outside the top 100, but Harris was not a ranked prospect at all. At 247 Sports, they rank the top 150. Other places that rank as many as 200 recruits at times did not have Ethan Harris ranked at all. So he has climbed significantly with a strong showing, not just at Camas High School, which is where he plays during the season, but he also played on the Puma summer circuit this last spring and looked really good there. And I think the main appeal for him for Gonzaga, and the main reason we've seen him move up these rankings, is that he's shown the versatility to be kind of that highly valuable 3-4 hybrid. And this is a position that Gonzaga has really valued in their last, decade or so of recruiting, with guys like Corey Kispert and Julian Strother. And this year, I think we could see potentially Steele Venters kind of play a 3-4 role. Anton Watson played a little bit. Anton Watson and Ben Gregg were kind of more of an offensive, defensive. Like Kispert, when Corey Kispert was on the floor, he was either playing the 4 or the 3. And that's the true of most guys who kind of do this. Watson and Greg were unique in that they would play, one role on offense and another role on defense. Watson would kind of be more of the 4 on offense and the 3 defensively. But I think for Harris, he's so athletic at his size. He's up to 6'9" now. He moves really well. He's a great jumper, great leaper, and a strong outside shooter who can also score around the rim a little bit. And I think he just looks so much like the archetype of Ben Gregg. They're not exactly the same player. And I think if you watch tape, you might think, Andy, what are you talking about? They don't look exactly the same. But I think in terms of the archetype, like the role where he's a stretch 4, where he's, if you're utilizing him in ball screen situations, it's not as a pick and roll to the basket, it's a pick and pop where he's shooting that outside shot, spacing the floor, giving some more room for the centers down low to operate because he's a threat to knock down open shots. I think he can play that 3 role as well. So I think for Gonzaga, this is somebody that they would really like to get, not only get on campus, because that is the plan in the coming days, but to secure a commitment from him. It would be their first commitment in the 2026 class, a class where Gonzaga has their eyes on a whole bunch of different players. In fact, Harris's visit coming up this week is going to be the first of 5 official visits, at least 5 official visits in the 2026 class. You have Harris come in on September 9th, and then you have a pair of recruits, Hurley Brutus and Sam Funches, who are arriving for Craziness in the Kennel on October 3rd. Craziness will be on October 4th. The next week, Luca Foster is a top 40 recruit in the class. He's visiting October 11th. And then you have Cameron Holmes, the 30th ranked player in the 2026 class, who is set to visit on November 8th. So Gonzaga stays very invested in that 2026 class, has themselves a potential opportunity to secure their first recruit in the coming days here in Ethan Harris from Camas. But now I want to focus on the 2027 class. We actually got 3 recruits. We're going to talk about one here, and then we'll get into segment 2, and we'll got 2 more guys to talk about there. But the first player we're going to talk about is another name that's more familiar to Gonzaga fans, more familiar to those of you who listen to this show on a regular basis. That would be 4-star wing Dooney Johnson. Dooney Johnson, 6'5" wing from Milwaukee Juneau High School in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 44th ranked player in the 2027 class, according to 247 Sports. And Gonzaga offered Johnson way back in July. He was their first offer in the 2027 class. They also contacted him like as soon as you could. I think June 1st was the official date where you can start contacting 2027 recruits, and Gonzaga was in on him right away. So this is a kid that they've had their eye on for a while. And it was reported on Friday that they had a visitor in Milwaukee Juneau High School, and that visitor was Gonzaga assistant coach Zach Norvell. And I cannot think of a better coach to send out to Dooney Johnson than Zach Norvell, because Dooney Johnson is a 6'5" 2-way wing. He's a versatile guard who is good defensively and offensively at that size from the Midwest. Zach Norvell is the right person to talk to him about Spokane, to talk to him about Gonzaga, to convince him a player. Dooney Johnson has offers from Wisconsin and Marquette and Missouri and Nebraska and Cincy and schools that are very local to where he is in Milwaukee. He could stay home and play at Marquette and not even have to move out if he didn't want to. Wisconsin's not far. Like, he could stay home. But Gonzaga offers him a unique opportunity, and nobody can speak to that opportunity better. Not even just among like the current Gonzaga coaching staff, but among like if you were to pick a player who played at Gonzaga in the last decade, who would be the best person to try to convince Dooney Johnson that Gonzaga is a good fit, I think Zach Norvell would be the answer. So this was a slam dunk decision, now that he is officially on the coaching staff, to send him out there and have him kind of, try to convince Dooney like, hey, this is what happened for me. I was a highly regarded prospect. Obviously, Dooney's from Milwaukee and Norvell's from Chicago, but you kind of sell him on the what Spokane's like, what the system is like, why it's a valuable place to be. And Johnson is very obviously a player that Gonzaga is highly invested in. At this point, the scouting reports are that he's a very strong defender. He's got great length and mobility. He moves extremely well laterally, which will make him a very, very good defender out on the perimeter. He's also he's needs to fill out a little bit more. All teenagers do, but he's very strong with the strength that he has. He uses it extremely well. He gets downhill. He gets to the rim really well. And that outside shot is kind of a developing thing for him. And so I think, again, you send Norvell out there who had all of those traits, but also had that outside shot, and say, hey, look, I got better at this. I redshirted my first year, and then I, came in and was immediately a 14-point per game scorer, was excellent for 2 years. Like, I know you can be this kind of player, and this system can set you up well to be that kind of player in Spokane. So again, we already knew Gonzaga was pretty involved in Dooney Johnson. They've been kind of on him as soon as possible. You don't see them make offers that early very often. And now sending somebody like Norvell out there is a pretty clear sign that this is a kid that this staff really has high on their list right now and is trying to get out to Spokane. So again, huge list of schools interested, not only the ones I named, but also LSU, Oklahoma State, SMU have made offers, Syracuse, Washington as well. So lots of schools invested here. Probably going to be a while till Dooney's making a decision, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Gonzaga along every step of the way as they continue to try to get this young man to come out west to Spokane for his college basketball career. Well, Zach Norvell was not the only Gonzaga staff member who was visiting with recruits on Friday. We had 2 other recruits in the state of Arizona, top 25 players in this 2027 class who got visits from Gonzaga staff. We're going to meet those recruiting targets, discuss their fit in Spokane, coming up here in just a second. But first, folks, when the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. And if you need parts fast for a project, Supply House has next day delivery. Talk about a game changer. The part finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. Their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process smoother. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Folks, college football is back, and I could not be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there is nothing like it. But let's be real, actually getting tickets can feel more like a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. And that's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices without any of those surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I pulled up Gametime, and in just a couple taps, I saw amazing deals. Honestly, it's faster, it's cheaper, and it's less stressful than any other way that I have bought tickets. If you're local in the Spokane area, you want to see Braden Smith's younger brother, who is at Eastern Washington. They host Western Illinois on Saturday, September 20th in Cheney, and tickets in the first row of the end zone, they're just $38 a piece. So folks, take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Terms apply. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. All right, folks, segment 2, still Andy Patton, still Locked On Zags podcast, and we're still talking 2027 recruits for Mark Few and the Gonzaga Bulldogs as the staff got real busy late last week. They sent Zach Norvell out to Milwaukee to chat with Dooney Johnson, a 4-star wing in the 2027 class. And they also had 2 coaches, or at least 2 visits with players in the 2027 class from the state of Arizona. We'll start with 4-star wing DeMarcus Henry. He's a 6'6" wing who is set to play at Compass Prep in Chandler, Arizona this season. That is the same high school as Gonzaga's incoming freshman Davis Fogel. Fogel, of course, spent the first 3 years of his high school basketball career at Anacortes and then transferred to Compass Prep for his senior year. He was not teammates with DeMarcus Henry, however, as Henry actually spent the start of his high school career, at Mater Dei in Santa Ana, California, and is now transferring to Compass Prep. So he's basically replacing Davis Fogel on the Compass Prep roster. So unfortunately, no overlap there, which I think would help Gonzaga out on the recruiting trail. Henry is the 22nd ranked player in the 2027 class, according to 247 Sports' updated rankings. He's 21st in their composite rankings, which gives him 5-star status, 21st at On3 as well, and then 26th over at ESPN. Henry already has 5 scholarship offers, including Ohio State, Oregon, Washington, Cincinnati, and then UNLV. But Louisville has been very active in pursuing him as well. They visited a couple of times. They were actually visiting at the same time that Gonzaga was visiting Henry this last week. So certainly not an all-encompassing list of programs with just the ones that have made offers at this point. Now, there is a unique wrinkle in DeMarcus Henry's situation. He has two older siblings. One of his older siblings is a wide receiver in the 2026 class who is committed to play at Ohio State next season. His other sibling, his sister, his oldest sibling, is actually redshirted last year on the women's basketball team, also at Ohio State. So two older siblings, both at or committed to Ohio State, while Ohio State also has an offer already out to DeMarcus Henry. Doesn't take a lot of reading between the lines to at least expect that they're probably the front runner at this point. You never know. DeMarcus Henry has given limited interviews at this point, but he did say, like, yeah, it would be cool to be with my family, and they've made an offer and whatever. And it's hard to not feel like the familial connection there is going to have an impact, especially when you consider that Ohio State's also a quality basketball program and is going to be able to offer a good amount of money and play in the Big Ten and all of that good stuff. So I would say he's probably an Ohio State lean at this point, but Gonzaga's only very recently shown interest. So who knows if they can make a switch here. Also would just say a bit of a sad backstory for DeMarcus Henry. His older brother, the one who's a wide receiver, is Chris Henry Jr., because DeMarcus, Chris, and Cena's dad is Chris Henry, who was a wide receiver at West Virginia out of college, and then a wide receiver in the NFL with the Cincinnati Bengals before he passed away at the age of 26, falling out of a moving car during a domestic dispute is the way that it is listed. And obviously it's a tragic story. He was an active player in the NFL when he passed away, but the unique part of this story, the legacy, I suppose, not a great legacy, but a legacy nonetheless, is that because he passed away while he was an active player, and because you can only diagnose CTE when you are in an autopsy situation, Chris Henry became the first, quote, for lack of a better word, active NFL player to be diagnosed with CTE. And that obviously spawned a huge look into CTE and its prevalence in active players and things of that nature. So again, not a super fun legacy for the family, but certainly something that is worth noting here. And West Virginia as a school is not interested in DeMarcus Henry, but that Ohio State connection with both his siblings going there is going to have a strong pull, I imagine, for DeMarcus as he gets closer and closer to making his actual commitment decision. At this point, Henry's an outstanding athlete, as you would expect from somebody with those kind of bloodlines. He's a very, very good defensive player. The shot form looks good, but the results aren't really there yet. But there's a lot of expectation that this is a kid who's going to grow into his body. The athleticism is going to stick. And once he kind of, finds that shot form and gets more consistent, he could end up being one of the better players out of this class. Next up, another four-star recruit from the state of Arizona that Gonzaga checked out on Friday. That would be four-star center Darius Wabbington. He is a 6'11" big man from Sunny Slope High School in Phoenix, 23rd ranked player in the class, so one spot behind DeMarcus Henry in 247 Sports' updated rankings. He's actually number 20 in their composite rankings, so one spot ahead of Henry. Either way, they're right next to each other. 20th at ESPN, 23rd at On3, so a consensus top 25 recruit in that 2027 class. Wabbington has offers from Louisville, Arizona State, Indiana, Maryland, Purdue, Washington, Villanova, Texas, LSU, Cal, even a few others outside of that. He is a highly regarded prospect in this class, getting offers left and right. When he got his offer from Arizona, he did say that he considers Arizona his dream school. So certainly going to be a tough pull to get him to leave Tommy Lloyd's kind of atmosphere and come up to Spokane, especially since Lloyd and Few have similar strategies and similar offensive styles. Not exactly the same, but enough that it might be tough for Gonzaga to pull him away if he does truly want to end up at Arizona. But Indiana and Louisville have been hard in pursuit here as well. And at this point, it's way too early to make any conclusive kind of plans around where Wabbington might end up. Wabbington was a All-American honorable mention as a sophomore, according to Max Preps. He averaged 13.5 points, 7.5 boards, and 2 assists while leading Sunny Slope to a 21-9 record as a sophomore in the highest competition level in the state of Arizona. He's a very, very good mover around the rim. He's got good footwork. He's got a variety of different post moves. All those things have already showed up for him early in his high school career. We also have already seen him start to develop a little bit of an outside shot. He's not like a knockdown, pick and pop 3-point shooter just yet, but he's got a little bit of a mid-range game. He's got a little bit of a back to the basket. I can turn and fade and hit a little mid-range jump shot kind of game to him. And there's a lot of projection indicating, hey, this is a guy that we think is really going to be able to knock down those outside shots as he gets older, as he gets just more reps and more experience shooting in games, that he's going to be somebody who can space it out to the 15-foot mark and then also all the way out to the 3-point line as well. So not hard to see why Gonzaga would be invested in a player who's already got a inside-out offensive game developing and has been lauded primarily for his footwork already this early in his high school career. Just two new prospects in the 2027 class Gonzaga is pursuing in Henry and Wabbington. We also already knew about Dooney Johnson. We also have two others in 2027 that the Zags have been interested in. Jalen Davis, 40th ranked player in the class from Bremerton, Washington, a 6'3" guard. And then Gene Roebuck, the third, 44th ranked player in the class. He is from California, one of the top ranked guards in the entire state. That's it for recruiting for today, though. We're going to move on. Spain, the defending EuroBasket champions. They didn't even make it out of the group phase this year. That means Mario Saint-Supery could be headed home much sooner than expected. We're going to discuss what that means for Mario and Gonzaga coming up here in just a second. All right, folks, closing out the show, moving on from our conversation about the 2027 recruiting class to instead talk about EuroBasket, which there's still a couple of weeks or at least a week plus left in EuroBasket. But for Gonzaga fans, not nearly as much interest in watching the event as both incoming Gonzaga freshman Mario Saint-Supery and former Zag Filip Petrusev. Their two teams have been eliminated. We'll start with Mario. Spain was the defending champs. The last EuroBasket winners was Spain, so they were coming in trying to defend that crown, and they did not even get out of group phase to make it to the round of 16. We talked about this last week. We knew after their loss to Italy that they would have to beat Greece and Giannis Antetokounmpo on Thursday in order to avoid elimination. They were unable to do so. The final score was 90-86. Looks like a very close game. In fact, the Spain had a lead with about 3 minutes to go in this game, but it wasn't even really that close. It was tied 13-all, and then Greece went on a 17-1 run, had a 15-point lead in the second quarter, and eventually Spain chipped away, got this thing back within a few points, took a lead, and then stopped scoring after that. And it was a heartbreaking way for things to end for this Spanish team. Saint-Supery, though, had a very, very good final game representing his home country, had 13 points, a pair of assists, a rebound, and a steal in 17 minutes. He was second on the team in scoring. He also set his career high at EuroBasket. Previously, the most points he had scored in the game was 9, so this was his first time being in double figures. And he also hit some really clutch shots. And I think that, to me, is what really stood out about Mario's performance, is that when this team needed a bucket, not only did they kind of default to Mario, the 19-year-old, but he didn't look shy at all. A pass-first point guard who is younger than everybody on his team, who is one of the youngest players to ever represent this country on the world stage, not only nobody would blame him if he's looking to get his teammates open in late game situations. That's what he's on the floor to do primarily. He is a pass first point guard, and he's the youngest guy on the team. All of that would make sense. But Mario was hunting for his shot, and his teammates were letting him hunt for his shot. And that, to me, just speaks volumes about how highly regarded this young man is amongst his teammates in Spain, and how fortunate Gonzaga is to be having this kid coming to campus and playing a big role for this team right away. Mario hit a floater at the halftime buzzer that brought Spain within 5. They were down by 15 or more points, and that floater at the buzzer got them within 5 points at halftime. He also hit his lone made 3 in this game, tied it at 71 with about 8 minutes to go. That was the first time it had been tied since it was 13-all. And Mario came off a screen. The defender went under the screen. He had an open look, and bang, he just knocked it down very, very smooth, like butter on that one. And then he actually gave Spain a lead, 84-82, with 2 minutes, 43 seconds to go. That was the last time Spain led this game. He had a clutch shot to give them the lead right there. Unfortunately, Giannis then scored back-to-back buckets, and Spain never recovered from there. Mario finished his time with Spain averaging 8.5 points, 2.8 assists compared to 1.2 turnovers, also averaged 1.5 half rebounds, shot 33% from three, 92% from the free throw line, did all that in about 17 minutes per game. So obviously now the expectation with Spain being eliminated, with the event being over for this country, that Mario will be back on campus. We have not seen any indication, but there's not really any reason to report it. What will probably happen is the next time there is a team workout, or the next time that there is a practice, the next time that this team is able to put stuff on social media, we will see Mario in Gonzaga stuff in Spokane, and we will feel happy and relieved that he is home and that he is here and that he is not hurt and that he is ready to suit up for Gonzaga this year. However, while I suspect, and from some social media feedback, I've seen this, the general consensus is we're glad that Mario's back. Like, we would have wanted to see him do well, but we're happy he's back. I'm kind of not of that mindset for one key reason. Gonzaga is not going to have their first official practice until late September. From my reading, they could officially start September 22nd. September 26th is the more likely date. They have 42 days to get 30 practices in. So the earlier you start, the more off days you take. Gonzaga has historically started, right around September 25th or so. The point being that if Spain had advanced all the way to the championship, which is September 14th, Mario still would have been back in time to be on Gonzaga's roster, be with the team when they started official practices. Obviously, Mario being back sooner is a good thing academically. He is missing less class. That is a good thing. He is also going to be, more familiar with the ebbs and flows of being a college student, going to class, going to study hall, everything that's expected of him that's not the specific basketball things. He'll also spend more time with his teammates, more time with his coaching staff, just because they're not official practices. They're going to be working out together. There's still a lot that can be gained from Mario being on campus a week earlier than he was expected to be because of Spain's loss. But my thought process is that I don't know that those positives, the academic positives, the campus life positives, the getting to work out with your teammates and just getting to know them a little bit more, I don't know if those positives outweigh the positives that would come from continuing to compete for your home country at the highest level against literal NBA players. Does Mario getting to be on campus a week sooner when the team is not practicing make him a better basketball player as much as getting to compete against Giannis Antetokounmpo for 20 minutes, or Danilo Gallinari, or Luka Doncic, or insert anybody else, Denny Avdia? Like, there's so many great NBA players. And yeah, it's not like Mario's going one-on-one against those guys, but the guys he is defending, or the guys that are defending him, are almost always 6 years older than him. I looked through just a cursory glance through the majority of rosters at EuroBasket. Most teams don't have very many guys under 25. Mario's 19. To me, that experience makes you better, more so than the other experience of spending more time on campus. I don't want Mario to miss practices. I don't want Mario to miss classes. I don't want Mario to miss good time, valuable time, learning from his teammates, getting to know his teammates, getting to know his coaches, understanding Spokane, campus life, all of that. I think all of that is important. But I would rather him continue to be in EuroBasket. I think that's a better experience. Obviously, the injury risk was there, and we are very relieved that Mario is not hurt. I'm just not – I just think that experience was so valuable for him. And if you watch the videos, there are some great clips. Armand Jovic, who follows international basketball, he has a phenomenal Twitter account for that. Find the video that he posted. It's been retweeted by any Gonzaga content creator that you possibly could follow, has shared this, and for good reason. It's a 2.5-minute video that I have probably watched 80 times since it came out. It's just a highlight package of him at EuroBasket. This kid is so good, and watching him have the confidence to go after, to drive to the rim against players older than him, to step back and hit outside shots, to make no-look passes. He blocked a shot at the rim. Like, this young man is exceptional, and Gonzaga is incredibly fortunate to have him coming to campus. I wish he got a few more weeks, or at least another week, to continue to compete for his home country. But I'm also not exactly crushed that he's back home and that he's getting that opportunity to start to meet his teammates or get more familiar with his teammates, his coaches, and the greater Spokane and Gonzaga community as well. Last note here, Serbia did make it to the round of 16, but as the betting favorites, the overwhelmingly consensus favorites to win EuroBasket, is a major disappointment that they lost in their first game in the round of 16 to Finland and Lauri Markkanen and were eliminated from EuroBasket competition. Filip Petrusev did not play well in their loss to Finland. It was a 92-86 game. Petrusev had just 3 points in that game. It was kind of the story that we've seen a lot for Serbia, which is Nikola Jokic is great, and the supporting cast is just not stepping up for him. Jokic had 33. Nikola Jovic, who is a small forward for Miami, the Heat, he had 20 in this game, and the rest of the team just did not step up. Petrusev had just 3 points, 3 boards, 3 assists, 4 fouls, and a turnover in about 17 minutes of action. All told, in 6 EuroBasket games, Petrusev averaged about 9 points, 2 boards, and a little over 1 assist per game in about 19 minutes. Even though he only averaged a little under 9 points, he actually scored 11 or more points in 4 of the 6 games that he played in. One of the games, he only scored 2 points because he was ejected for a quote unquote violent altercation just about 5 minutes into the game. And then the other game was this disappointing performance against Finland. While it's disappointing for Serbia and obviously disappointing for Petrusev, he remains a very valuable part of Serbia's international their international competitions. He's going to be a part going forward, barring an injury or some like really tremendous youth players. He's probably going to be on this team in the 2028 Olympic Games in Los Angeles. He's going to continue to compete for them in FIBA events. He's one of the best players from Serbia right now. And as Serbia basketball is having this moment where they're so internationally recognized, they won a bronze medal last year in Paris. And obviously we're expected to win this event. Clearly it's because of Jokic. We know that, but it's still cool to see Petrusev getting an opportunity to be an important part of this team while this country is having a big basketball glow up right now, even though this particular event did not go very well for him. As a reminder for Petrusev, we talked about this a few weeks ago. He is signed to play for the new Dubai Basketball Club, which is competing in the EuroLeague for the first time this year. Should be fun to see how that team does. I'm excited to see what Petrusev can do in his next professional season. Going to wrap it up for me today here on the Locked On Zags podcast. Folks, thank you so much for making the show your first listen or your first watch of the day. Of course, a special shout out to those everyday listeners and those of you hanging out in the Locked On Zags Discord community, and those of you watching on YouTube. Again, apologies for the audio or video quality. We'll be back with a couple more shows this week here. Keep you up to date on recruiting, keep you up to date on what's going on campus with Gonzaga as well. Thanks again, folks. Have a fantastic rest of your day. And of course, as always, go Zags.